you, me, and John. So it's prettier to rewatch.
Well, we got three of us pinned right now.
Oh, really?
Can you see that? Yeah. Are you on the right
Well,
view? Go to this
I think
speaker view.
if you pin it, that doesn't change it for everybody, does it? You got to spotlight it.
It works with the recording.
Oh, okay, cool.
That's, whoever's pinned is what you're going to see on the recording. Now, other people can have the gallery view or the immersive view, but if you have the speaker view on, you'll see the people pinned.
Got it. Right on, right on.
Okay, so this is exciting, everybody. The goal of the day is talk about sales and selling, sales skills, and everybody needs them. These are super basic requirements to be successful in any kind of sales-oriented job, and that's what this is. It's not about investing. It's not about deal configuring. It's about establishing rapport and getting people to say yes. And that is a sales motion. So I'd like to welcome Jon Motsenbocker, who's a sub-2 student. He's a broker. He's a little edgier than most, as you might just tell from his shirt and his beard. And I love his style. A bit of a lone wolf, wouldn't you say, John? Is that a good description of you?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And John is big time into cage fighting, if anybody cares. So don't mess with this guy.
What's up, everybody?
So John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Jon Motsenbocker. I've had 2 hourly wage jobs my entire life. Everything else has been commission sales. I got my real estate license in 2014 with the goal to not get fired and work somewhere for 2 years so I could take the test and get my broker's license. And the main reason I wanted my broker's license is I'm kind of a hothead. And if I wanted to quit, I wanted to be able to open up my own business on the same day before the sun set. Joined Sub2 a little over a year ago. Got to meet Gary, and Gary's one of the smartest guys as far as real estate that I've ever met. He knows all of the ins and outs. He's very by the book. I live in a gray area. I don't know if that's breaking news to everybody, but yeah, so I've been in sales, and Gary and I were on a Zoom on Friday, and he invited me here. So I'm here to help any which way I can.
So Patrick is also an unbelievable natural salesperson. I think all of these skills are super important. So where should we start this conversation, guys?
Sounds like both of you have your real estate license. Do you think that's something that's important to anyone who's like thinking about joining Sub2? Or, I'm kind of in a position, I was on here last week. I kind of have a deal that I already have in a good enough place to buy it. I think I could get it better, but I don't know where to go next. And it's like, I don't want to wholesale it. I want to buy it and hold it myself. So it makes it harder to, jump in with someone. I consider myself a little bit more of a lone wolf as well. So, once you get to that stage, how do you, where do you go next? If you're not a Sub2 student, you don't have all of those contracts. If you go to someone, are they going to want a piece of the deal, or are they just going to say, pay me this fee and I'll hold your hand through to the end? And is that something that having a real estate license or, broker's license would help you with? Or is it just, getting in and learning? Or how do you move forward once a lot of people get stuck on finding their first deal? Maybe they can find a seller, but they don't have a buyer. Maybe they have a buyer, but they don't have a seller. I have a seller and am the buyer. So what's next?
There was a lot in that.
Yeah, there's a bit to unpack there.
It wasn't
right?
just me. Okay. I'm glad Patrick picked up on that.
Yeah, I want to answer from my perspective because I'm not licensed. And we have like probably about 120 conversations with agents every day. And so last quarter we made, we generated 140K in revenue. Okay. And so I don't say that to impress you, but I say that to impress upon you that you don't necessarily have to have a license to make money in real estate.
Right.
I think it's extremely important to know somebody like Gary, who knows what they're talking about. Somebody like John, who knows what they're talking about, and somebody who has experience, who is licensed, a licensed professional, because it will help. But I think that to answer your question, you need to have complete clarity around the purpose behind having a license, right? So I have a lot of people who ask me, should I get my license? And I say, sure, but why? Like, what's the purpose behind that? Is it just for education? Do you actually want to represent buyers and sellers? For what purpose are you getting your license? And I think once you have purpose around that question, then that will dictate your course of action, right?
Sure.
Because I think a lot of people, they have very broad goals. Like, I'll ask people, well, what's your goals around real estate? Oh, I want to invest in real estate. And I'm like, okay, great. That's not a goal, right? Like, you have to have extreme clarity around it, and that's going to dictate your course, right? So if you asked me if I wanted to represent buyers and sellers, that idea gives me chills. Like, no, that is not sexy. That's not a sexy idea to me.
Yeah,
right?
but
So,
Patrick, you've been asking yourself that question all year, haven't you? Now fess up.
right. Right. And to add on to that, yeah, I actually just purchased a book on how to get my license in California. And so for me personally, I'm an analytical dude. So I want to see the ins and outs, and I want to have that knowledge. But I don't think I ever want to play, or I should say play the game as an agent. So for me, the reason would just be educational purposes. And it's a long to midterm goal that's on the back burner. It's not a high priority for me. So I think in order for you to truly answer the question, you have to ask yourself, for what purpose?
John, pros and cons. What do you just?
Yeah, I'll chime in. As a licensed broker, if I had this to do all over again, I wouldn't even bother with the broker's license, the agent license. It's two different things. Basically, it kind of puts me at a disadvantage. So for instance, let's say Gary was the agent on a property. I'm not saying I'm advocating that you guys do this, but let's pretend Gary is the agent on a property. I'm trying to pitch him terms, et cetera, and so forth. Gary's not having it. He doesn't even want to have the conversation with his seller. Not saying Gary would do that, but you get the gist. Agents are like that. At that point, I can't go directly to the seller. I can't go knock on the door because I'm a licensed agent. They could find me. They could take my license, all that stuff. But if you're unlicensed, nothing's stopping you from going and knocking on the door, making a phone call, going direct to the seller. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I have a struggle when I go out to look at somebody's house, especially if I'm going to pay cash for it, because I've kind of got to, I've got to put your interest before mine. Yes, I want to make money. Yes, I need to buy your house at a deep discount. But I also could tell you, hey, we can throw this up on the market and see, what the best offer that we could get is. So it's a very edgy spot to be in. If I had to do it all over again, I would just team up with a guy that's way smarter than me, like Gary, have Gary write my offers and whatnot. You don't need a real estate license. And trust me, most of the people that I've met within the Sub2 group are a hell of a lot smarter than, most of the realtors that I've ever come across. But, I'll let Gary take it from here.
100%.
Yeah, there's definite pros and cons here. And I think that John stated the cons fairly well. Like, for instance, there's a huge conflict with being an agent and a principal in a transaction. So, but to Patrick's point, what's the purpose? Why would you do it? I've managed to go, I've only had a license for 15, 16 months now, something like that. And I had a vision in my head when I made the decision to do it. And my vision was, there's this void in the services market, the real estate services market, in catering to investors. And I thought, this retail real estate mentality that's out there is very limiting, and it's old. It's not adaptive to the market right now. And it's very clear that a lot of things in the way real estate conducts business is going to be changing in the next year or two, whatever time frame that is, when this Mueller, is it the, I'm trying to remember. There's a couple court cases, one in Missouri and one national case that's going on that, and I think these cases are going to be, they're antitrust cases. And they're going to help break the current model. The model needs to transform. So this is my personal belief after dealing with real estate agents and doing fix and flips. And one of the things I realized was, number one, the one thing that would have put more money in my pocket was if I had a license, even as a fix and flipper. But I made the decision that I wanted to try to fill that void in the market that I saw, which is catering to the investor client in that community, which meant totally busting through this business with these commissions and looking at how do I package fixed price services that make sense to investors who are doing volumes of business. And what's the trade-off with that? I'm not chasing, as in my real estate business, I'm not trying to chase that one buyer or that one seller who's going to buy one property in 5 or 10 years or sell one property in 5 or 10 years. I'm looking for people who are going to do deal after deal after deal. Patrick, how many deals have we done together?
Oh man, I've lost count.
I know,
But yeah,
right?
You're the go-to guy when it comes to creative.
So every creative deal Patrick does, and every once in a while I've done a wholesale deal with him. So I do all of Patrick's deals. I'm not constantly looking for the next customer. I'm looking for how can I find deals for Patrick? How can I increase the efficacy or the efficiency of my customers? And I'm pretty much not buying real estate right now the way I used to. So, but that was a conscious decision. Now I'm hoping, I see traction with what I'm doing. When I talk to the average realtor out there doing real estate, they're struggling to get transactions on the board right now. And I'm closing 2-3 deals every month. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely about, the real estate thing. And kind of the secondary question was, where do you go when you do have a deal? It sounds like find someone like you. To mind, if you're not buying the real estate, you're providing a service to help people close their deals if they don't know how to do it creatively.
Well, right now I'm licensed in California. So if you're doing a deal in California, I can help you. But what my next step is, I want to scale up and scale out. So my next step is to start building the business across the country and extending the business model in different states. So
do you need to be licensed to help with a creative financing deal?
I believe that there's a huge advantage to having a license when you're providing the service, because number one, in every state, if you're doing contracts for a third party, you need either a real estate license or a law license.
Yeah, can I add to that?
Sure.
So Dustin, my goal in my business is to do multiple transactions every month. So that being said, if I dropped everything that I was doing to handle paperwork, I wouldn't be able to do the volume that we currently do. So when I have the paperwork, I know what it looks like. I've signed the addendums and read through all of the creative stuff, but I have no interest in handling my own paperwork for that very reason, right? So if I were you in your situation, what I would do, and I actually just recently did this because now I'm going to be buying in Atlanta, is I found an agent he's actually Abraham Gray's agent. I reached out to her and I said, I'm going to be JVing with Abraham in this area. I'd love to have a phone call with you. And we connected. And I said, I know creative inside and out in California. I've seen all the car docs. I know how it works. Can you send me over an example of how it works in Atlanta? And she said, absolutely. We do these deals all the time. So she sent me all that paperwork so that I can consume it. And I know that she knows what she's doing. And now I'm more than happy to sign a buyer broker compensation agreement with her to get her paid on my deals. And so now she's acting essentially as a TC. And in certain situations, if you get lucky and you find a unicorn like Gary, they might even get on the phone and negotiate for you. Right. And that to me is invaluable.
Yeah,
You
we've
know.
done that a few times.
Yes,
But
sir.
it could, but what Patrick said here about what's your intention, that's really important. I just wanted to remark that Lois Tyrell makes a point about that depends on the state. Like for instance, she's in Illinois and she was thinking about getting her license, but in Illinois, you're allowed to do one contract assignment a year.
Mhm.
California, it's 7. So at a certain point, Patrick's got to say to himself, at what point am I taking a chance here? Because in California, if you're practicing real estate without a license, you can get a $20,000 fine, but worse yet, you could go to jail for 6 months. So there's an actual criminal element to it. So, I think to Lois's point, you really got to know the laws in the state that you're operating in.
Mm-hmm.
And understand what level of risk you want to take. Yeah, Justin, sorry, I didn't mean to step on you there.
Yeah, I meant to say that you need to have a team there then too. So a lot of times we're saying, team up with a sub 2 student, team up with a sub 2 student, but they can only go so far. You're still going to need to have a local agent or a local lawyer and local title company to help you actually get through the transaction.
Mm-hmm. Well, when like this, the purpose of this Zoom is sales, right? And so part of sales is building rapport and trust. Mm-hmm. And trust is essentially congruency with one's words and actions. And so if you have not performed with the seller and or agent in a current transaction, third-party stories and using somebody like Gary in an email where I can see him and say, look, I've got an agent who's more than comfortable with these transactions. In fact, we do every month we do these transactions. He's going to handle everything. Having an agent in your corner is going to make you look just that much more professional. And they stop questioning whether or not it's legal, whether or not it's possible. And they start asking, how can we do these things with this guy? So it's extremely valuable when it comes to the sales process to have a licensed professional in your corner.
Okay. So Dustin, do you have any follow-ups here?
I guess I'm still struggling to find the answer to my question, which is I have a seller who wants to sell me a deal.
Yeah.
I have them buy the deal.
I would find an agent in your area that has done a creative deal.
What state is this?
Nebraska, right?
Yep.
Yeah. That's the first thing that I would do. So I could.
You can do your own deal, but I mean, if you're not familiar with the contracting process, find an agent that's willing to be your buyer's rep. But you got to find somebody who doesn't want to gouge you for 6% of the deal or some ridiculous, when other agents find out what I'm doing, they think I'm nuts.
Right.
I charge a fixed fee, right? They think I'm crazy.
You want to find somebody who understands what you're doing, because if they understand creative, they're going to understand what a good deal looks like. They're going to understand what an entry fee looks like. And you won't even have to explain the fact that you're going to be paying them a set fee, a buyer broker compensation agreement for that transaction, because they're already going to know that's what has to happen for it to pencil for you as an investor.
Got it. And so it's not as easy as going and finding a sub 2 student. It's finding someone in your state who can do this for you. Because like you're saying, Gary couldn't do this for me because he's only licensed in California.
Well, I could, but I won't, because
Let's give him something usable, Gary.
Well, yeah, I know. Well, there are a lot of TCs out there that will do this stuff.
Yeah,
sure.
And do it in the gray area because they're not licensed. So you could use one of those, but I'm not recommending it, but I believe in working with someone who can meet all the statutory requirements in the state.
Justin, are you a sub 2 student?
No.
Not yet. Okay. So what I would do is I'd post inside of Circle. I can reach out. I can post it inside of our Facebook group to see if we can find you somebody in Nebraska. I think Caleb is working in multiple states, right, Gary? Do we know if he's working?
He's not licensed in any of them, but he works in a lot of them.
Yeah, we can find you somebody that can help with the transaction.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Because you're taking this one down yourself, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. I haven't. come to the terms, but they're already good enough that I would take them. I think I can get them better.
Fantastic. Yeah. We'll put some fillers out there, see if we can get somebody to help you out. But I would post inside of the circle group and say, hey, any agents who are working in Nebraska that have done a creative deal, I'd love to work with you. And then you got to negotiate their fee and see what they're comfortable with.
Got it. Perfect. That's
Cool.
That's helpful.
So let's go back to sales here. All right. So some sales basics. Number one thing that you need to do when you're dealing with sellers is to build rapport. So how do we build rapport? How do you do it, Patrick?
Well, rapport is based on two things, right? I used to teach sales in the corporate space and in private space, but it's, essentially it's to build rapport, you need empathy and interest, right? You need to be interested in somebody and you need to show empathy. Now, empathy doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I know how you feel. It could be relating to somebody, right? Like somebody who says something like, I just purchased a property in Sacramento. Oh, really? I love Sacramento. I was there last summer on vacation, whatever. That's an example of empathy. Interest is just asking simple questions. So if you're calling an agent, for example, you would ask them, can you tell me a little bit about, the condition of the home? And then you let them talk. And if there's an opening for a rapport, you take it. And I always tell people on my team, if you find yourself talking with an agent or a seller and you're talking about anything but the house, that's great because you're probably building rapport, right? So that's kind of what we're looking for.
So John.
Well, basically, I'm calling, I'm talking to whoever the seller is. I'm trying to fact find. I'm trying to find out, what are you trying to accomplish? Okay, because I need to know what they're trying to do before I can even offer any solutions whatsoever. But yes, Patrick is right. You have to build rapport. And I just kind of latch on to whatever it is. Oh, you got cats? You like cats? I'll talk a little bit about cats and whatnot. But basically, okay, so, you and those cats, where are you guys headed if I bought this house? And I basically just turn it, and it's just question after question after question. And we're just kind of building rapport. Sometimes my deals, they're gonna take a little bit of time because it's gonna take more than one phone call. But usually, like if you're calling, it depends on who you're calling to. If I'm calling pre-foreclosures, I don't want to be the realtor. Hey, I'll sell your house for the most amount of money, or the scumbag investor trying to buy their house for pennies on the dollar. And I basically come at them trying to help. Hey, if you're looking to save that house from the auction block, if that's what you want to do, that's what I'm here for. And basically, I'm trying to build rapport. If everybody's trying to buy and sell their house, well, they're going to shut down, because I don't know if Gary agrees, but I would say more than 10 out of 10 of these folks that are in pre-foreclosure, they don't want to move. They want to stay in their house. Something happened in their life. Some of these people have buried their head in the sand and think some magic wand is going to get waved over their life and everything's going to be great. But you just have to continue to build rapport. So they usually only continue to take my call because I'm not acting like I'm trying to buy their house. But once we go through all the things that you could do, and the only thing left is to sell your house, well, I can list it, right? Because I'm an agent, or I can buy that thing and we can figure it out. But you've got to build trust with them to let them know, hey, I'm here to help you, versus all these other vultures that are trying to steal from you. And I build rapport like that and make everybody else out to be the bad guy, essentially.
Well, when you're asking questions, what kind of questions are you asking, John?
Well, Gary, what are you trying to accomplish? I mean, you tell me you want to sell your house. Like, if I bought your house, I mean, where are you going to go, Gary?
Well, technically, what do we call those types of questions?
I call it fact finding. I have no idea what you call
They're
it.
open-ended questions.
Oh, open-ended
Right.
questions.
It's
Okay.
not a yes or a no. It's open. Yeah.
Don't ask people yes or no questions.
No, I never, ever do that. I want to get them talking. And then I never use a script. That's another thing. A lot of people use scripts. It drives me absolutely insane. I'm just trying to basically build some rapport. If we're talking about the house, what type of condition is it? All the same stuff. Is it occupied? Are you in it? Is your cousin in it? Are you getting rent for it? What's your motivation? If I could buy this thing, like, why would you want to sell it? It seems like a great house. And you want to find out,
I want to highlight what John's saying, guys. If you're in this meeting and you're here now, pay attention, perk up, write this down. What he just said, it might seem obvious or simple, but it's really important. And I feel like a lot of quote unquote investors miss this point. It's what are your next steps? When I buy this thing, what are you trying to accomplish? What he said was so important because like literally the last sub two that I closed, I asked the guy, why did you accept my offer? I know you were talking to at least 20 investors. And he said, you were the only one who asked me what my next steps were. Right. So that's the goal. Okay, great. How can I use the tools at my disposal to actually get you over that obstacle to hit that target? And that's how you build rapport, right? You're working on this as a problem. That's what I tell a lot of agents. I say, look, I noticed this, like, this is just an example. I noticed that this house has been on the market for 90 days. It looks like an amazing house. I'm actually interested in it. I'd love to assume the loan, do a sub two. You know, is that something that you're interested in? And I present it in a way where it's like, you and I can work together to accomplish the end goal of hitting the target of selling the house and helping your seller. Right. And if you can present it in that way, you're going to have a high level of rapport and they're going to trust you. And you're going to have a higher likelihood of actually closing.
So when you're working a deal, John, how many times do you have to talk to someone before you close the deal?
As many as it takes. It doesn't matter. You can't force some people. It could be one and done on the phone. I can close them. I can lock them up. Sometimes like Shirley Sellers over here in Florida, I've been talking to this lady once a week for 2 months. And I'm going to lock up not one, but 2 of her properties. One of the properties is going to be here in California. I've already got the buyer for that. We can go cash or we can go creative, either way. Or worst case scenario, I listed it full retail and put it on the MLS. But they live in Florida and they are ready to go into a nursing home and they want to sell their $1.2 million property. Well, I got an email from another agent offering me a 35% referral fee for anything we got in Florida. So I get in the way of the money is the best way that I put things. I've got to figure out what they're trying to accomplish. They were trying to accomplish selling this property, but by fact finding and building rapport with this lady. And I'll tell you the main reason that it's taken this long. Her husband has Parkinson's and he keeps falling off the walker and he goes back into the hospital. So every time I call her, you know, hey, how's Larry doing? Is Larry okay? Like no BS. Like I truly build a rapport with these folks. Like I care. I'm now emotionally invested on, I don't know Larry. I've never met Shirley. I don't know these folks, but I've talked to them, you know, or talked to her so many times. I've built a real good rapport with her. And on Friday, we're going to put the house on the market or she's going to sell it to me for cash or a creative deal, but that's a done deal already. And Larry is home from the hospital today. So they were talking about, yeah, we're going to go into a nursing home. We want to sell this house too. That's all it is. There's no magic to this stuff. It's just conversations. Just talk to people. TTP, you know, Brett Daniels, talk to people. There's no reason to have a script. You got all these scripts. Oh, say this, say none of that. It's all nonsense. You don't need any of that stuff. At least I don't.
Patrick, John is more organic. You're more scientific about this because I know your systems, your follow-up systems, your automations. Are you tracking how many touches it takes to get a deal?
I mean, it all, I think, you know, John, clearly he's experienced. You can tell from that answer because, you know, that was the perfect answer to that question, is as many as it takes. So basically what I tell my team is, until they tell you to F off, you are not done following up.
Right. That's my bar. When they tell me to get freaking lost, stop calling me. I don't want to ever hear from you again. That's when you stop, right?
Yeah, because you never know. I mean, a deal can go back on the negotiating table, you know, like that, because the seller changes their mind and the market, you know, wears them down. So follow-up is extremely important. But again, one thing I will say, and I'm not disagreeing with John. I think John has a natural tendency for sales. You can tell he's very comfortable with it. It's natural for him. Not everybody has a natural flair for it. And so I think it's really important to not necessarily have a script, but to have a template. And this is something that I hammer with my team a lot. I tell them, if you don't bring me motivation as to why the seller is selling, we do not have an opportunity that is valid in the pipeline. And why that's so important is that if we don't know why a seller is selling, we don't know if we have a valid exit strategy, right? If it's owner occupied, it's free and clear, and the reason that they're selling is they want to see how much money they can get for their house, that's not motivation, right? So we can organize and triage what we're doing with our opportunities if we have that motivation. And so going back to my point of, yeah, maybe you don't necessarily need a script, but what I would recommend all of you do if you are talking to somebody is have a notepad. We do everything virtually on our team. We have a CRM, but you need to know the condition. You need
What do we call this?
the 4 pillars.
Or
I'm going to
Right.
hop in real quick. I'm going to put it in the side. COMPT. I made it 5 pillars and I didn't make it. I stole this from Jameel. But basically I use this as my framework in my mind whenever I'm doing it. C is for condition. What's the condition of the house? Yada, yada, yada. O is for the occupancy. Are you living in it? Is it vacant? Do you have a tenant? Whatever. M is for the motivation. Why do you want to sell this house? What are we trying to accomplish? P is for price. Okay, like if I had a bag of money, you know, what would you take for this thing? And the last thing is T for timeline. If they've been in that house for 40 years, what do you guys think the odds that they can be out in 10 days if I gave them an all cash offer? The odds are slim and none versus if it's vacant. If it's vacant, well, then we can close quickly on that thing. You got to kind of know what it is. But the number one thing that you have to know, what are they trying to accomplish?
Right. That's, yeah, 100%. What he just said was extremely important. Again, take that and write that down, guys. And I've got experienced people on my team, and this is still a friction point with our process. And I tell them, look, if you don't bring me the 4 pillars, like when we're in our meetings, the first thing I want an address. Give me an address. Like, I want to look it up. Can I look it up? Do we have an idea of what the condition is? And I want to see those 4 pillars. And so he added that extra one, the occupancy, which is really, really important too, because you'll have a lot of agents who don't understand that for a cash deal, we don't want tenants. We don't, it's not a good opportunity for us. And depending upon the county, it could be a nightmare for us to actually get it vacant. So we typically want to negotiate either cash for keys, or we want to extend our escrow to give them plenty of time to vacate the house. That's fine with us. So really, really important. That's going to tell you exactly what kind of deal you're dealing with. Should you even be spending time on it at all?
Now, there's an important thought. Should I be? So what we call this is qualifying.
Right.
Getting these whether it's 4 pillars, 5 pillars in everyday corporate sales motions. We have BANT, which basically tracks to what we're talking about with the 4 pillars. And so this is called qualifying the seller, qualifying the deal. Is this a good deal? Should I be spending time? What Patrick's saying is so freaking important. One of the biggest mistakes beginners make is not disqualifying quicker. They get a seller who wants to talk to them. They get an agent who's interested in talking to them, and they're latched on to the fact that they're talking to me. Great, but they're chasing a deal that's just not there. How often have you seen that, Patrick?
Very often. Yeah. And especially with new investors. One thing I'll just quickly kind of run you through my filter process. And so the first thing that I look at is condition. If we don't know the condition, I'm asked, the next question out of my mouth is, when is the agent or seller going to take video or pictures of the property so that we can give them a true and fair offer? We can kind of estimate what a project's going to cost, but we generally don't do any blind offers because it's just not how things should work. But that's that's generally what we're looking at. So condition, if it's really clean, then I might be thinking, okay, maybe a light flip or it's creative. The next thing I need to see is the transaction and mortgage history. And why this is important is talking about pre-qualifying something. Let's say something was purchased, in May, and it was purchased all cash for $550, and our maximal allowable offer for a wholesale deal is $600. Are they going to actually take that? And if they purchased it in an LLC, it's another investor that we're purchasing it from. It's probably not an opportunity for us. So I'm not even going to go down that road, making the calls and trying to underwrite the deal, because I can see in the history, It's the numbers don't work. They just purchased cash. They're trying to, you know, do a quick turnaround, so it doesn't fit for us. So number one, condition. Is it really a fixer? And then the mortgage and transaction history. Is their mortgage more than what we can actually offer them cash? If that's the case, if our MAO is actually lower than that mortgage, then it doesn't make sense for them, right? And so if those things line up, then I'm looking at the 4 pillars. Do we have all of the information? What's the motivation for them to sell? Are they truly motivated as a seller, right? And then everything else will factor in. But that's basically my quick filter process to decide whether or not we're actually going to spend any of our bandwidth on it as a potential opportunity.
John, how do you disqualify properties?
I essentially do the same things that Patrick has mentioned, but I'm also, even if that property doesn't work, what else do they have? Do you know anybody else that wants to sell? Like, I never, ever, ever let anything go. I absolutely I ask as many questions that they'll let me ask. And a lot of times I build such rapport with these folks that even if we don't get a deal the first time around, they sell it to somebody else. I'm always the next call if something happens, because that's what I tell them. Hey, I'm still going to be here. If something falls apart, you know, I get it, blah, 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 blah. And I've got, I had to wait a year to get this deal. I closed it probably about 45 days ago, cash. Same thing. I missed out on it the first time, and he sold it to somebody else and he ghosted me. It was like 4 months. Then one of the buyers, because I've got a bunch of buyers that I can send stuff to before I even lock it up, you know, to make sure, hey, what would you pay for this? They sent me a screenshot. Hey, isn't that this house that you tried to sell me a couple of months ago? It's on the market. I hit the seller up. Hey, it looks like you locked it up with another wholesaler. I hope they close, but man, that's just too much money. Guys, like, you know, ghost me another 6 months. I happen, just because I keep a list of every single transaction that didn't go through, and I'll just regurgitate it. I'll go back through it. I happen to reach out to that guy, and we got a deal done. And my contractor that I was going to take over there to fix and flip it myself, he and his wife bought it. And I told him flat out, hey, I got this under contract for $285. If I sell it to you for $300 to make 15 grand, are you going to be mad? Nope. I put everything on the table. I don't care who knows that I'm wholesaling it, not wholesaling it. Did you and I agree, Mr. Seller, to 285? Then what's the problem? End of story. Yep. So just try to be upfront. You know, everybody wants to call themselves an investor, and that's totally fine. You know, wholesaling is an exit strategy. There's no such thing as a wholesaler. Okay. There are people that wholesale, but that's an exit strategy. But the bottom line is you guys got to take action, get on the phone, go beat on some doors. Who cares? Make some noise, find a problem, and then reach out to a guy like Gary, myself, Patrick. We'll help you close the deal, put it on paper, all that kind of stuff to get your first deal. Like, I just don't want you guys to sit here and take all this information out and do absolutely nothing with it. Like, let's get fired up. Let's go. I'm ready to make calls right now, Gary. I'm not going to lie.
I know, you're getting fired up. I could tell. Golden nugget there, everybody. Don't forget to ask them if there's another property they might have for sale.
Yep.
100%. You've invested all that time in the call, and so that property is not going to work. Well, you have anything else that you're looking to sell, right? Why not ask that question? Don't forget to ask that question.
Huge. Yeah, I had one seller sell us 3 properties, and it was, I mean, they were like 6-month gaps, you know.
I got one right now. Another lady in Florida, I made this little bot. I send it out on Facebook. She filled it out. She gave me, you know, a house that she wanted to sell. It was a mobile home, you know, like 150,000. I'm like, yo, I don't even buy mobile homes, but like, what else do you got to sell? Oh, I got 64 acres that butt up against a golf course here in Florida that I tried to sell for 7.1, but I'll take 5 million for it today. I'm talking to her. I can't make that deal work because there's some sort of an environmental thing where you can only build 1 house per acre. So DH Horton and all the other players that I know, they're not interested in it. But that same agent, that 35% agent, he sent her an agreement today. So we're going to have that thing on the market at $5 million. I don't care what it is. You have to build rapport, and you just have to keep asking questions until they tell you to go pound sand.
All right, guys, let's take a question. Alexi's had his hand up the whole time. Let's bring Alexi.
Let's
on.
go.
Turn on your camera, Alexi. We'd like to see who we're talking to. You're going to,
There he is. Oh, there he
I
I think
No.
you scared him off.
going
went.
once,
He got scurred.
going twice.
I don't see
Sold.
him.
Let's get with Steven.
Let's go with Stephen instead.
Hey guys, how are we doing?
Hey, Steven.
So I'm down here in Southeast Florida. I am a licensed agent. I've been an agent for, I don't know, 15, 20 years. If anybody ever needs anything done as far as MLS or research or whatever, feel free to reach out to me. You know, with any questions, or you want to do listing, you know, list the property, whatever. I'll work anything out you want. I don't care. I can tell you, just you were talking a lot about what if you should get your license or not. I can tell you that one of the benefits it was for me to get my license, I got it as kind of a tool for my, you know, just to have. I figured it's a good backup as an investor to have. But what it did was it taught me to learn how to talk to people. It forced me to talk to people, you know, how to talk to buyers, sellers, other agents. It forced me how to learn contracts and paperwork, you know, and I've been an introvert my whole life, so I kind of really needed that. So that was a big benefit for me. Other than that, it's really been a distraction, but you know, it's personal preference. But no. So yeah, I don't know if you can see my number on there. That's my cell number. Anybody has any questions or wants help with anything, just let me know.
I already text you, so check your phone.
Oh, great. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Hey, connections, people.
Well, this is what
Yeah.
you do. You got to ask questions.
Does Stephen look like he spends a little time at the beach?
Just a tad bit.
Just a little?
Well,
You
I
in
didn't-
Boca, West Palm area? Is that where?
yeah. I'm based out of Boca, but I work all the way up. I work like 4 or 5 different counties, and I love traveling around Florida. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in New England, but I was born to be a Floridian for sure. I love the heat, love the sun.
Are you a
But,
Patriots fan?
You know, it's funny, growing up in New England, I was always a Dolphins fan from
Okay.
when I was a kid. So I
I was
knew
going to cut off our
destined to-
relationship if you were a Patriots fan, because it's Raiders over here. But that's
Yeah,
a whole
no.
other story.
Yeah. No, I've always been a Dolphins fan, so I was meant to be in Florida. But anyway, I just thought maybe some of those details might help someone thinking about being an agent. The other thing too is, you know, I didn't hear anybody mention it, but you can always do a flat fee listing if you know how to, you know, if anybody does, everybody knows what that is. You can get a flat fee listing done for a few $100s, and another agent will put it on the market for you, and then you'll handle all the calls. And then if you have questions, you can come to the group. So you're getting a listing done for a few $100. You'll just have to pay the buyer's broker a commission. But you can, you know, you can set it up from the beginning what that's going to be, you know, on the flat fee. But that'll save you some money, and you don't have to worry about it. And you're also protected where that broker or that agent is handling the liability, right? So that's not bad. Something to think about. But
most of my business is flat fee.
oh, there you go. Yeah.
Right. And I do flat fee list. I do list, you know, list only, entry only, as well as some service and full service. So
Yeah.
good
So
point.
it's a la carte. You can set it up the way you want, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So, but anyway, this has been really great information to hear. I love the motivation. I love hearing from seasoned communicators and seasoned salespeople, because it's critical to know as someone trying to grow in a business. You have to hear this from people and hear it over and over, because it's the most important things to hear is, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I working on? What am I supposed to say? So I love hearing these things. It's all about practice, right?
Everything
Yep.
about practice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, yeah, I've got one, my first deal under contract. Well, I mean, I've done other deals in the past, but since kind of getting into groups like this, I have one under contract. It's a complicated one, but hopefully I can get it to the finish line. It's a pre-foreclosure with lots of liens on it, so I'm having to learn all that, figure it all out. So anyway, but Yeah, but if any, like I said, if anybody has questions or needs help in Florida, especially Southeast Florida, I'm happy to help out in any way I can. And I appreciate everybody on the call.
This
Thanks,
is the value of the circle. Get in the circle and network with people. And let's spread the networking. As Pace always says, your network is your net worth. So
Yeah.
let's give someone else a chance to jump in here. Trevor, I'm gonna go ahead and pin you.
Yep. Let me get my camera.
There he is. What can we do for you, Mr. Trevor Jones, today?
Yes, sir. I'm on my phone here, so that looks better. Okay, awesome. How's everybody doing? But yeah, my name is Trevor. I'm actually a realtor as well in the DMV area. Mainly focused in the state of Maryland. So surrounding areas of the Baltimore metro. I would list the counties, but most people probably don't know. Most people hear Maryland, they think Baltimore, but very small state, but there's a lot going on here. Thank you guys for hosting this. I actually met Pace last week in New Jersey, and he basically directed me to the community. And I could tell you that I have not been sleeping. My life has completely changed in the past week. And I'm very blessed to find this community in the time that we are in. Just a little background. I've been full-time a year and 3 months, closed 10 deals my first year for 3.25 million and 4 referrals. So about 14 deals altogether. And I'm looking to diversify. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can hear
yeah.
you.
Okay, froze for a second. Looking to diversify into more investments. I've done a few investment deals, and I have a developer that I work with that I did a deal with, and we actively have one under contract in the city. So I'll just kind of get into the question. I had 2 questions that I'm trying to put together. Which one? They're both pretty serious questions. But so when we were on the elephant challenge, Pace was talking, or there were a few people saying that you should find the property and then call the agent to first figure out if it's a potential deal. Normally on the realtor side, you would do that and you would run comps. And I heard someone say to not run comps, to just send it over to your investor. So my question was, what is the process after you found a potential deal and you've talked to the agent? Do you guys try to get an assignment contract with that person before sending the deal out? Do you run comps? What do you guys kind of do after you have a potential deal before you actually connect it to the investor? Because I know as a realtor, typically you would just have like a buyer agreement with the buyer, which would create agency. That way you can present deals that way. So I'm basically trying to figure out how to connect the deal without the deal being taken from under me, pretty much.
Are you asking as a realtor or as a wholesaler, or
Well,
what's your
so
persona in this case? You know, what's your avatar? Are you acting as a realtor, or are you just acting as an investor who happens
yeah,
to have a license? Let's put that frame around it, and then I think John or Patrick can field that for you.
Yeah, I could break down the way that our transactions work. So are you specifically talking about wholesaling deals?
I guess. So just to kind of clarify again, I've done 2 assignment deals.
Okay.
But basically I use the contract of sale. So in Maryland, in the contract of sale, there is a clause that says that the contract of sale is not assignable. So I talked to my broker, and we were able to kind of just dash out and initial the contract of sale. And so that was my second question, was
So
if you guys
you
are
were
using.
you changed your vesting in escrow. Is that how you were able to do it? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not vesting. He's talking about they're just changing a non-assignable contract to an assignable contract.
Like an addendum.
Well, no, they're just I got it. They're modifying the contract with signatures.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So is your broker, I mean, my number one reaction would be, what does your broker think about wholesaling? And, you know, there are brokerages in general that won't allow it. They don't even want you to work with wholesalers. There are other brokerages like mine, Fathom, which says, we don't want you wholesaling on as an agent working with us, but you're happy to work with wholesalers. So that's the number one thing. If your broker's cool with it, then you're good to go. So you work for a small brokerage, Trevor?
I don't, I'm actually through KW.
KW, all right. Well, I'm surprised you not all Keller Williams, a franchise operation, so every brokerage is going to have a different set of rules.
Yeah. So I'll just,
go
I could break
ahead.
down our process for you. Maybe this is helpful. So we have 4 team members, and I've got a dispo manager, and then there's me. So basically my role is I negotiate and I manage the transactions at a high level. I have the difficult conversations that nobody else in the team is equipped to have. And so when we have an opportunity that comes our way, it all really depends. There's 3 buckets, right? We're dealing directly with agents. So it's either off market from an agent and they have the listing agreement, or they know somebody that has it, right? That actually spills over into bucket 2, which is like inter brokerage listings, as we refer to them. And then you have an on market deal. So when it comes to the off market and the inter brokerage listing that for whatever reason might not go on market, maybe they want to sell and take pre MLS offers, those 2 buckets, we will go deep with underwriting, but we generally have like phases. Phase 1 is like, are we even close in terms of price? So our number one question is, are they firm on their price, and are we close to that 60 to 70% of ARV? If those 2 are a yes, then we'll go even deeper and we'll start the process. And basically the process is comping it out. So we have every team member on our team, when they're sourcing the deals, they will do their own underwriting. In other words, like, what is it going to take to get this flipped for a flipper? And what is our maximal allowable offer? We use Gary's spreadsheet for that. Here, I will link resources for you guys in the chat. Let me just paste that and send that out to you guys. Gary's spreadsheet's in there. But anyways, once we have that number, then from there we get it under contract. And so do you guys know the number one reason that agents don't want to work with wholesalers? Type it into the chat, guys. Why do most agents not want to work with wholesalers? Type it into the chat right now. Let me see if you guys know the answer to this. It's not competition. It's not low offers. And it's well, scams. That's, I don't know what you mean by that. So no commission. Nope. All of these are wrong. No, I'm glad. Thank you for guessing though. The number one reason that agents do not want to work with wholesalers is they do not perform. They don't know what they're doing. They tie people up. They don't have a buyer in line, and they waste everyone's time. That is the number one reason agents do not want to work with wholesalers. So I mention this because inside of our team, as soon as we get even a hint of the fact that we're going to have something under contract, the disposition wheels are turning. We're already reaching out to buyers and making sure that we have somebody ready to go to actually fulfill on that contract so we can perform. And in California, which is my market, we generally have anywhere from 3 to 5 days. And most of our contracts go under contract, or excuse me, are assigned, I should say, in about 48 hours. So with us, we make contact with somebody, we're in negotiation. We get property information, meaning video and pictures. And then once we have it under contract, we literally get a buyer we assign it to an end buyer in about 48 hours. Does that help?
That is so important. And what makes it possible for you to be able to move that quickly, Patrick?
We have processes and systems that are repeatable and reliable.
And you got buyers, obviously.
Yeah. My dispo guy, he's about to quit his full-time job. Like, he's making a lot of money. And basically the process is like, we typically already have a buyer's list in the areas that we're working. But as soon as we, like I said, get an idea that we're going to get it under contract, we will reach out directly to people who have flipped in that general area. And the cool thing about once you have a buyer that actually performs, they become a VIP on our list, and we go directly to them. Like, we had a guy in San Jose, he closed cash 7 days on $1 million property. And then the next week after that, we sent him a deal and he closed on that one at $1 million. So his spending capacity is insane. So immediately we reach out to that guy because we know he's going to perform and we trust him. So does that kind of help? Do you have any specific questions about that, Trevor?
Follow up here, Trevor.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think it was what they were saying to just kind of send the deal to them and not run the comps and ask them what they would I don't remember who it was. I'm not gonna say any names, but they said to just send it to them and just basically say like, this is a deal. What would you pay for this? So and so. And I know normally after you look at something, you run the comp. So I just wanted to see how you guys do it.
When we provide the information to our buyers, we have a list of comps. We have, we don't ever run, like, we run our own random numbers, but we don't ever deliver those to our buyers because we let them run their own numbers. We also we use Investor Lift and Privy to find buyers. So basically we'll look at flips on Privy, we'll reach out to the buyers directly. And it also depends on the situation. Like we have a probate right now where the agent who's sourcing the deal is actually on my team. And because of this sensitive situation, we're going direct to the buyers and we're not going to be listing it. With some of our other deals, we'll list on public platforms so that we get inbound leads for buyers. But we can see who's buying in an area, what they purchased at. So we know where buyers are buying, where they're at in percentage of ARV. We're very, very sophisticated when it comes to working with and finding the buyers. Super, super important. In fact, on day one of the Elephant Challenge, what was Pace having you guys do? Finding buyers. Super, super important. So it helps to have like a process and a line. A lot of you guys are working by yourselves. I would highly recommend that you find somebody who's on your level, that is going to be consistent, that you can work together with. And trust me, a percentage of a deal is better than, getting multiple deals out of margin is better than getting one deal at 100%, right? You're going to make way more money if you guys actually team up with each other.
Cool. Glad you asked those questions. Great questions, Trevor. There's one in the chat here. If you get a seller under from Jeff L, if you get a seller under contract and then align with a buyer for sub 2, does the wholesaler need a special contract or can I proceed with a wholesale agreement? I think we've got a identity crisis with that question. Are you working a wholesale deal or a sub 2 deal? Not to say that you can't assign a sub 2 deal. We assign those all the time, but they're very different. They require different contracts. And either John, Patrick, you have anything to add to that?
I will add to that actually. And maybe John has something to add to, I think. But like, here's what I tell my team members, like we primarily focus on cash wholesale deals. That's where we make a lot of our money. And Gary will tell you this, sub 2 deals take twice the energy and you make the same amount of money or less, right? So
yeah, if you're assigning them for sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so that all being said, like what I'm getting at is like when my team has a sub 2 opportunity or a creative opportunity, I tell them start shopping it immediately and make sure that you actually have somebody ready to buy that deal. With cash deals, it's different because for us, we have a larger list. I think there's a bigger market for it. And you don't want to lock something up that takes so much energy if you don't have somebody to perform on the back end. And the other thing I would say is that if you're new to investing, you probably don't know what certain investors are actually looking for. And so by finding buyers that are actually purchasing these types of situations, you'll then know the actual buying criteria. For me specifically, I'm trying to get into a deal at 10% ARV if it's a creative deal. If I go above that, I'm probably it's not going to be as attractive deal for me. I'm looking at rates that are 5% or below. I want it to cash flow as a long-term rental. So if I see it as it's, or break even, but if it's losing money as a long-term rental and like you're trying to show me Airbnb numbers, I don't care. Like it's not a deal for me. So knowing all that specific criteria will not only help you perform on the deal, but it will also help you better negotiate your deals. You'll know what buyers are looking for. I see people marketing like, seller finance deals or hybrids, and they're like, oh, $200,000 down. It's like at a 7% interest rate. It's like I could just go get financing for that. Like, why would I buy that? Right. So knowing what your buyers are buying, again, will help you perform. Number one, it'll save everyone time. And lastly, you'll actually know how to negotiate those deals. John, I see you nodding.
Yeah,
You have anything to add to
Yeah,
that?
I would agree with that. And basically, if it's a deal, you will have zero trouble finding buyers. That's all there is to it. But just like Patrick said, you got to know what a deal is. $200,000 down on a $400,000 property at X amount of dollars, you take over this, that, and the other thing, like that's not a deal. And a lot of, I JV with a ton of non-sub 2 and sub 2 students. They call me up, hey, can you close this seller? And I'm putting deals together and whatnot. And, you've got to do the fact finding. I mean, it goes back to what we talked about. But if you bring me a deal, hey, I got somebody that want to do seller finance, this, that, and the other thing, and I get on the phone and they got a hard money loan that's at 18% and it's going to balloon in the next week. And like, I can see why you want to sell me that problem. Like it's not a deal, $200,000 down on a 400,000. I see these deals all the time in the free Pace Morby group. And it's just like, I don't even comment anymore. Like there's no reason to I just keep scrolling, but you have to know what a deal is. And trust me, if it's a deal, it'll sell itself.
Yeah.
It'll sell itself every single time.
The best creative deals, low equity, no equity. If they're mid equity, sometimes they can work if you can also do a hybrid with seller financing. But I would think that's the best way to encapsulate that thought. Do you guys agree?
100%. And so I just got a direct message from somebody and they said, I don't want to look stupid. It was somebody who wanted to ask a question, but guys, I want to mention something because this directly relates to what we're talking about now. I didn't know what I was doing a year ago. And now I've got people on my team who are going to quit their W-2s. Okay. How did I get there? I got there by making a ton of mistakes and linking up with people like Gary and running the risk of looking stupid, asking questions.
Patrick,
Right?
so you're 1 year in, right?
Yeah. Well, last April would be a year. So
all
just
right.
over a year.
There were times last summer where I remember you wanting to quit. What am I doing? Looking for other
100%.
jobs. And
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I literally got turned down on a job that I thought I was going to get, and I'm glad I did because it really shifted everything for me. But anyways, the point that I'm trying to make, guys, is use this as an opportunity to ask questions. Don't worry about looking stupid, guys. Just get in there and make mistakes.
Go ahead and be stupid. You have our permission. Everybody's stupid at some point about something. But if you let your fear of appearing stupid keep you from asking questions and participating, you're not going to go anywhere. I promise you.
Yeah.
So how about we
100%.
give Gil a chance here?
Yeah. Gil, what's up, dude?
Just go ahead and unmute.
Okay, so just, muted. So my first Doom here, just started following Pace a little bit a month back. Very new to this. Don't have my first deal. And in fact, I hope this question wouldn't be super unbeneficial to everybody. So let me know if I'm completely off track. But the gist of the story, I'm looking for my avatar. I want to get started. I really am just starting. And maybe the bullet points that are important to maybe help direct me to the correct path is I'm a tech dude. I saved up about $500,000 that I can play with. Social skills.
Good for you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, guys, you have a buyer in this Zoom, guys.
You got an equity partner potentially here.
Yeah, I might have to link up with you.
Yeah, I second that motion.
What I don't have is a lot of time. I have about 10 hours a week. So I'm super curious, excited, passionate. I want to get into the game, including to rehab. But my upbringing and up until my history, I worked with my fingers, not with my hands, which take a second. I'm a software engineer, so not I don't do home improvement,
Okay.
but I want to start learning that. So now the question is, what route should I be looking at? Am I looking towards a gator path, or should I grab become a unicorn agent and turn into a real estate agent? I can learn this, in maybe in 2 months and then go on to the MLS. We talked about this in the beginning of the call, etc. I mean, you probably know the options. There's no reason to list them now, but I'm looking for how to start.
Have you done Pace's Avatar series on YouTube?
I've started the 3.5 hours one.
There's like several, aren't there? Several
There's
parts.
probably
to it?
15 hours in the Zoom
Oh.
vault by
No,
No,
itself.
I only watched one.
Well, he
one.
doesn't, he's not in the Zoom vault, but
Right.
a lot of that's on YouTube, Pace's YouTube channel. So if you've watched that, that didn't give you any insight.
Well, I would like to be an investor, but I'm wondering if the 10 hours I have each week is a limiting factor.
It is 100%. And so what, in my opinion, if you're making great money in your W-2, and this goes for everybody who's listening to this, if you're making fantastic money, then if it's me, I would just become a buyer. Because for me, wholesale is my living. Like, we're making a lot of money, but I'm full-time, right? I'm like 8-12 hours a day, working on it. So for me, it makes sense. But if you're making, if you've got 500, if you're liquid for 500K and you're making great money in your W-2, why would you start a new business? And by the way, this is just my opinion. And what we were talking about at the beginning of the meeting, clarity becomes very important for you, right? So you want to invest in real estate, but what do you mean by that? Do you want to build wealth by us picking up assets? You could easily become a buyer. You could literally just join sub 2 and say, hey guys, I've got a lot of cash to spend, and acquire properties like that. And it's literally that simple. I mean,
Actually, I do have an answer for that. My immediate goal is to make $10,000 each month passively.
okay. Yeah. So what I would do is I would reverse engineer, like, how much cash flow do I need? In what markets am I going to be purchasing? Right. And that's the way my brain works, is like, great, you've got a number. And guys, what he just said is really important, because then you can start to look at what kind of opportunities are out there. And then you reverse engineer how much time, energy, and money is it going to take to get to that point. Right. So then you got to figure out, what market am I buying in? What are the best markets to buy in? All of those questions start to become your path.
Mhm.
There's quite a few people who want to meet you in the chat, Gil. So be sure to check that out.
Right.
I think you could find a date or two in there, All
Gil,
right.
do you know what markets you're purchasing in, Gil?
Well, I'm best off of Seattle. I do visit Charlotte quite a bit. So either Charlotte or looking at Dallas and Atlanta. Yeah, or Columbia. So I'm still trying to figure those out. I guess the answer is no, I don't.
Let wholesale groups like Patrick help you find the deals. Be the buyer.
Yeah, I have a few guys, because, since we've had really good success in wholesaling now, I was really focused on getting my own creative deals, but now I'm just purchasing them because it's more effective for me. But yeah, I've got a few guys who are doing high volume creative deals that I could send your way. You will be my competition, and I'll be totally okay with that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, who else do we have there? Alexi, are you really here?
Back. There we go.
He's back again. Are you there, Alexi? I'm gonna spotlight you.
Sound check. Can you guys hear me this
There he
time?
is. Okay. He's here this time. You
Yeah, I
ghosted
have
us the
to,
first time.
No, it's not a technical difficulty, just I guess the lack of experience with Zoom this time. I'm a big Teams guy with Microsoft, and now after being on these calls with Pace.
Do you ever try to get a bunch of non-techies, non-corporate types to use Teams? It's a nightmare. I mean, I'm a former techie myself. I have an E3 instance that I still have to play with, and I have Teams, and I can't get anybody to use it who's not already incorporated.
Absolutely.
No,
but by no means
everybody
I'm not
knows
advocating
Zoom.
to switch to Teams.
You try to get people on Teams or even GoTo or whatever. It's like putting up a roadblock. Anyway, go ahead, ask your question.
So yeah, that was that. It was just me not being able to find a unmute button fast enough. But I'll get better. So, but it's a little bit funny actually now that I missed a couple, I guess, people ahead of me, and things I was gonna ask going out right after Gil, who how should I say, he articulated a nice round number out there, which got a lot of people curious. And I'm in a completely different situation. But thanks to Pace, I guess, at least I am in some situation when it comes to real estate at all. So if you don't mind, and I think just like Trevor said, he didn't sleep for a week. I probably didn't sleep for a couple of days too. Maybe not just for this the elephant challenge reasons, but nevertheless, my energy is a little low. Please forgive me. So I just wanted to maybe phrase my question by, if that's acceptable, just laying out my situation as concise as possible and try to get your feedback and maybe a little bit of a guidance, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. That's what we're here for. What's your question?
So my situation is that I had one rental, well, still have a 2-family duplex for a good amount of years, actually, maybe 10 years. And I was always excited about real estate, tried to continue it, but I did not, right up until like recently. My second purchase was my home, my private home, and that stripped me off completely of any cash. Like my balance is zero, virtually, almost. My credit history is really not appealing at this point. So for a while I thought, okay, let me just forget about this real estate journey altogether. And suddenly the creative finance, real estate approach comes around, and it sounds very, very interesting. And I, researched it quite a bit of time. So talking about, I guess, avatar is, surprisingly enough, what I initially understood that my immediate avatar would actually be a buyer. And it should sound funny, probably even stupid, right? So I'm referring back to an invitation to ask questions and a little, look a little stupid a little bit, but nevertheless, the reason I would want to buy, and I really want to buy and hold for a long, long time. This is my personality, my belief in good amount of benefits coming out from that. But number one benefit for me to buy and hold right now would be, I believe, the depreciation. I happen to start making more money right now. And number one, I just really do not want to lose a good amount of that to taxes, specifically me living in New York State and New York City, actually, where we pay 3 levels of income tax. So it's not pretty. So for me, just being able to use real estate as a write-off would be of a benefit already. But what sounds funny, I guess, to any person who's listening to me, like, hey, guy, I guess you're just naive. You're trying to come into a deal without no money. You hoping to have some sort of creative financing, I guess, no equity type of property I would like to take over. And what value, I guess what I'm trying to answer is like, what value am I bringing to the deal, or rather to a partner? Because me, at this point, what I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, to circle back to it, I signed up to the challenge and also to another course by Pace with the mentality that let me forget everything I know about real estate, and specifically let me forget everything I know about financing, because I got pretty good about understanding the bank view to it, like a standard approach, but I'm trying to just bring myself down as I'm just getting started, right? So again,
Can you do me a favor?
yes,
Can you just get very, very clear with your question? In one sentence, what's your question?
Is there a way for me to bring value, or what value would that be if my plan is as follows? I'm going to join a SAP2 community.
Okay.
I'm going to find either a student or a leader in there with whom I want to offer to partner up with him and say, I'm interested in buying and holding specifically in Florida. What is it should I be doing in order for me to become a partner with you if I do not have any money to invest?
Okay, perfect. I got it. That's a clear question. Awesome. So it's simple. You source the opportunities. You find the opportunities, you negotiate it, you get it under contract, and you bring it to an equity partner who's willing to take on the deal with you, because your end goal is to acquire assets. However, right now you're not in a financial place to actually put out that entry fee. Is that correct? So if you can,
Yes, in terms of cash.
yeah, if you can if you can identify, source these opportunities, negotiate them, get them under contract, then the only next step is for you to find an equity partner.
So that is really a question leading to a sales, meeting here, right? You're
So
saying the
you're
next step
planning
would
on
be,
joining the sub-2 community, Alexi?
yes, absolutely.
Join. These questions will become self-evident to you.
Yep.
If that's where you're headed, go do that right away. Seriously, you'll find your direction. And that can, once you're immersed in the sub-2 community, you will find a path. You will find 3 or 5 different paths that interest you, and that you might be struggling to make a decision, but make that move. Seriously, do it now, and you'll find clarity. I promise you. Wouldn't you guys agree?
100%.
100%. You need to just go make it happen. Either put it on a credit card, chop it up into payments. There's absolutely, like, how much is it costing you not to join sub-2 right now? Like, I don't know why you're still here, Alexi. Like, get off
No,
this
it's
Zoom
that-
right this second
right.
and go join sub-2.
I know exactly why I'm here. Like the decision about joining it's a made decision, and I don't really have problem like financially to pay whatever the fee that chopped up in pieces, like you said. I think what just Patrick said right now is that go try to find a deal and then find a partner. But I suspect that once I get into the sub-2, shouldn't my strategy be rather opposite? Shouldn't I rather try to identify the leaders or students there with whom I want to just come to clear terms and say, I want to work with you if you have me. I would not mind
Alexi,
doing the deals.
you got to get in there, get on the other side of the paywall, and then start asking the questions. Seriously.
Yeah, and what I would say, Alexi, is I think you and I are kindred spirits. You're an overthinker. And
Definitely.
you're just overthinking this. What I would do is I would identify what markets you want to purchase in first, then start reaching out. Who wants to JV with me? Who has experience, right? So I'm working with a sub-2 student who's a high-level investor right now. He's doing a ton of deals. He's liquid for a ton of cash. And we did our first deal together. And I basically said, what other markets can I work with you in? And as soon as he told me that, I'm like, great. Now I'm looking in those markets. So find somebody who is experienced, who will do these JV deals with you. And then once you have them say, yes, we're green to go, this is my criteria, then you go out and you find those deals. And
We're getting running out of time here. I'd like to give a few.
Fair enough.
people some-
Thank you so much for your time, guys. Yeah.
yep, of course.
Okay. Who is next? Lois, are you ready to join us
Yes.
in the spotlight here? There we go.
Hi, thanks for taking my call or my question. So Patrick had mentioned using Privy and Investor Lift to find buyers, and I've had Privy for over a year, and I signed up for Investor Lift a while ago, and I get text messages from them quite often. But to be honest, I just delete them because I don't know what to do with it. And my impression of Investor Lift is that these are all wholesale deals that someone has gotten under contract. So for me as a wholesaler, I don't think what do I do with that?
You don't. That's
Yeah, you
called daisy
don't.
chaining.
Right,
but-
exactly.
yeah, you don't
So
wanna do that.
how do you use it to find buyers then?
Well, we source our own deals. How do we use it to find buyers? Well, so we're doing two things. One is we're using Privy to actually identify those who are truly active in that area.
Mhm.
And then we're doing what's called deep prospecting. We're taking their LLC and we're finding their contact information, and then we're reaching out directly. And by the way, guys, buyers are like the easiest people in this industry to talk to. Most of them are very simple to talk to and easy because they want to make money, and you're calling about money.
So that's
So-
on Privy, finding
Yeah,
it buyer.
yeah.
Okay, I'm familiar with that.
And then now
So-
with Investor Lift, we're actually the ones creating the listings. So
Got it.
we have something under contract, we're creating the listing, and then now we have inbound leads that are buyers. And so, well, some of them are buyers, some of them are wholesalers, doing what I would not recommend that you do and try to
Right.
daisy chain deals. And we
Right.
have a whole vetting process that we put people through. We actually, if it's a first time buyer with us, we have a step-by-step process that actually we ensure that they're an actual buyer. And we've dealt with that before. By the way, if you do that, we've already blacklisted a handful of people from Investor Lift. I'm friends with the vice president of Investor Lift. Do not daisy chain deals, guys. You will make a bad name for yourself. And it's just, if you want a joint venture with somebody, if you have a buyer and you have a deal opportunity, sign a joint venture agreement, get their permission to help sell the deal. That's different. That's how you professionally do that type of transaction.
Yeah, and I'll hop in and
Yeah.
tell you a quick story about that. Just like Patrick was saying, I had a deal. I had a 6-unit apartment complex in Mendota, put it out, and somebody took my information, put it up on Investor Lift, and represented that they were the ones that had it under contract. And that's how I got in touch with the CEO and whatnot. I'm like, yo, what's my deal? So
Wow.
basically, my seller was actually a licensed agent, and he was going through foreclosure. He gets the same emails that you do. So he sees the property that I have under contract on Investor Lift and
Oh.
just lit me up. I'm like, whoa,
My
tap the
God.
brakes. I didn't even put it up. I don't know what you're talking about. And basically, I ended up getting that deal done, but I just wanted to hop in. Yeah, you wouldn't use Investor
Yeah,
Lift
that's great.
until you got a
Yeah.
deal.
Got it. Thank you. That
Mhm.
And
clarifies it. And actually, I
I-
had this happen to me. I had a property in Atlanta that I got under contract with a friend, and she supposedly got a buyer. And then come to find out, he was just another wholesaler and he didn't have an end buyer. So our whole deal fell through,
Yep.
and I was so
Happens all
upset.
the
We were
time.
both so upset because we thought he was, an end buyer. So now we've learned, obviously, that we need to vet our buyers and
we want to see entity document. So my disposition manager handles all of this for me, but basically he goes, great, thank you so much for contacting us. We're excited to possibly work with you. What we need from you is your entity docs, and we need the addresses of your previous flips. And so he will go and vet them and look at the fact that they've actually done their own flips.
Okay, so remember when Patrick asked everybody, why don't real estate agents want to deal with wholesalers?
Correct.
exactly.
There you go. You have it in
Exactly.
a nutshell right there.
Yes,
100%.
Yep.
Right? That's
Yeah.
what knucklehead wholesalers do.
right.
Many people that aren't behaving professionally. All right, I want to get to
Thank you.
a couple more questions here if we can. Veronica,
Let's try to keep the questions concise so we can get through you guys. And then if we could rapid fire the ones in the chat, that would be great. Veronica, how's it going?
Hi, thank you for
Hi.
having me. Quick question. I was just part of the Elephant Challenge and then signed up for the Sub-2 program.
Oh, nice.
Pace strongly suggested not to do cold calling ourselves, but to hire the VAs, which I'm ready to do. My problem is I haven't done any cold calling, although I did pull a list of tired landlords in the Monterey Bay area. And I wouldn't know what to say if a lead was brought to me. How do I handle that?
That's a great question. I'll just jump in real fast. So here's what I'll say. I'm just going to give you my overall opinion because I've done everything so far. Like I have a background in marketing. I was running ads at one point, which kind of worked. I was all over the States, and then I went and focused in on a market. I was going direct to seller, and then I started doing direct to agent and MLS. In my opinion, if you're new, I think the smartest way to do it is to grind and go direct to agent and direct to the MLS for a few different reasons. Number one, cost. It's a lot less expensive than hiring VAs and pulling a list and doing all that while you're still learning, right? Like, because you're going to need to make a lot of mistakes to start figuring out, how do I negotiate? How does a transaction work? Like, what are the rules? All of those things, right? So for me, my learning curve was drastically decreased by linking up with Gary and being in a Zoom with him every day and learning the process and actually speaking with and having conversations with agents. So that's just my overall opinion. Now, if you want to do what you're doing, it seems like you're kind of like a type A personality, you're going after it. Good for you. Your question is, how do I have that conversation with a seller, right? basically how I do it. I don't, by the way, I don't ever use the word investor when I'm talking to people. I just say I'm looking to purchase a house, right? That tells the seller and the agent, whoever you're talking to, that I'm somebody on the phone that's going to perform, right? I'm going to buy something. So that's how I like to start off my conversations. I'm looking to purchase a house in this area, you know, and you said you're pulling vacants.
Mhm. Well, no, tired landlords.
Tired landlords. Okay. So yeah. I always make it personal, and this is just my approach. I'll say, you know what? I was actually walking a property on Main Street the other day, and I came across your property, 123 Main Street, and I noticed that it fits my criteria. I'm just curious, are you thinking about selling? And that's how I'll start the conversation.
Oh,
Is that true? No, it's not true. I wasn't on their street, but they get a million phone calls every day, and they all sound the same. It's always, hey, you know, we purchase all cash and no closing and blah, blah, blah. It's the same script that
Mhm.
everybody's using. So I like to come off on a personal note, and say, you know, maybe I see a Google screenshot of their house, and I'll mention the tree in the front or something, like something personal, right? And then it starts the conversation. It looks like the house needs a little bit of love. I'm just curious, you know, I'm looking for a renovation project. Have you ever considered selling? You know, and then I start the conversation there. And so what John mentioned earlier, the 4 pillars, actually there's 5 pillars in there. That's the template of your conversation. As soon as you get over that intro, then you go right into the conversation. They might say,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I was actually thinking about selling. Okay, cool. Well, in order for me to give you a fair and true offer, I would need to walk the property. But before we do, can I just ask you a few questions? What's the general condition look like? Have you been taking care of it? How's the roof? How's the foundation? When's the last time you did a renovation? Those types of questions get them talking, so you can build rapport if you see the opportunity. And it also gives you more information about where you might need to be with your numbers, right?
Veronica, you're not going to know how to talk to sellers until you start talking to sellers.
100%.
And you got to screw up a whole bunch of times. And, you know, to emphasize what Patrick and John have said here, you need talking points. You don't want to be scripted.
Mhm.
If you start, you know, I hear so many people, even in the sub-2 community, they listen to Pace's seller calls and they start repeating stuff that Pace says and the way he says it. But if it's not part of you, if it's not genuine, people are going to know the difference. You know, one of the things Pace Pace uses is bring me up to speed. Well, that's very offhand and casual. It works for Pace, but for some other people, it's going to be a turnoff.
Mhm.
It's a little too informal. Bring me up to speed, but Pace can pull it off. But all of a sudden, people join the sub-2 community, and then I hear them in our. We do there's a lot of opportunities for role play, and then you'll hear everybody parroting what Pace said. Bring me up to speed. You got to use your own voice, learn the talking points, understand the information that you're trying to gather. That's the answer.
Mhm.
Also, Veronica, I will add this. I don't have anybody on my team doing something that I haven't already done. So you asked, well, Pace says they shouldn't be making phone calls. Well, yeah, because Pace's time is exponentially more valuable than most people because he's so highly skilled in what he does, right? However, I'm sure Pace has made a cold call, right? And he knows if somebody's doing it correctly. So I would recommend that you jump in and start making mistakes so that you can have an experience and have actually embodied what you're going to be hiring somebody to do so that you can manage them and monitor their performance.
Cold calling
I was thinking.
operation. It's a numbers game. It's high volume. It requires a lot of volume. It requires a lot of management. It requires a lot of commitment to resource expense. It's an expensive thing to engage in. You might
Call audits, you got to audit the calls and make
you
sure that
might
they're
want to consider other ways of lead gen. That is the most expensive, one of the most demanding. It's a boiler room type operation. It's not to be taken lightly. I really suggest that you try to join a team that's doing that type of outreach. It works. There are a lot of people making millions of dollars doing it, but it is a huge commitment, both in terms of time, resource management. It's not the easy way. You're not taking, John, you had something to say about that?
No, I do cold calling myself for myself. It's just you're gonna have to take the reps. You're gonna have to learn how to do it if that's the route. If you don't have any money and you're trying to grind it out, well, yeah. I mean, I feel that. So and I still do it. Is it the highest and best use of my time? Probably not, but I mean, I really truly enjoy doing that. I love when the seller is super upset and mad that I called. I just practice on them to try to calm them down and see if I can get some information out of them. Because at that point, what do I have to lose? And I'll give you one thing. If you are going to cold call, don't use your cell phone. Go get a burner number, get a Google number, get something like that. Because I don't know what the exact numbers are, but if you make 140 calls consecutive, like in one day, they're going to spam you up. So I'm always using other, I use something called Burner app. I have 3 different numbers and I never use my cell phone number because I called the do not call list. And, I guess you're not supposed to do that. Well, I'd rather ask for forgiveness than for permission. And then one of the things I do when I call up, yeah, I'm on the do not call list. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I'm going to take you off the list. But while I got you on the phone, that house at 123 Main Street, you ever think about selling that thing? And I'll just go right into it. Like at that point, what do I have to lose? So, but that's
John is one of those rare people that could curse a seller out and they'll fall in love with them.
yeah. And I mean, that happens and whatnot, but my script doesn't, I have my opening line and I use this. Hey there, I'm not even sure I got the right phone number. I was driving through the neighborhood. I saw a property at 123 Main Street. Is that property yours by chance? How'd you get my phone number? Well, I Googled it. Sometimes I get lucky and I just go right into it.
Right. So, and does he sound ingenuine? Does he sound scripted?
Yeah,
I
no,
think
he sounds
people-
good.
right. And he's
Yeah.
gruff and he's rough and, and
Oh, I don't sugarcoat it. I'm not a bakery. Like I just get after it.
be
I love
your
all the
own
suggestions. Thank you.
personality. Be true to yourself when you're having conversations with people. Be
Yep.
the person
You
you
got to be
are.
you.
Don't try to be anybody else.
Yeah.
And that is so important. And you look at a guy, and that's why I love the fact that John came and talked with us today, because, you would think that there's so many things wrong with his approach, but
But it works for me.
there's way more right about it than it might be wrong for you to be that aggressive, but look at him. That's him. You're getting the genuine article there. And that's what really matters. People know when you're genuinely yourself.
Yeah.
All right, let's try. We had 2 more.
Thank
people.
you.
I want to try to get at least through Graham. This has been really good. I'm enjoying this. So let's move to the next one. Eric, you were next.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Perfect. I will try to
Good. Ask your question, please.
yes, I will try to make this quick. So first off, I want to say thank you to Patrick. I really went through that article that you sent me all through the weekend, posted in the group, got my area, and yesterday I posted my buy box. Now that I've posted my buy box, I have a lot of people reaching out saying, hey, this is what I have, this is what I have. So what would be my next step to figure out if what they have is a good deal or possibly a good deal for me? Should I start asking people in the group, like sub-2 students, to help vet it and then help me get through it? Or what would be my next step?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it depends really on your risk tolerance, your spending capacity, right? So you have to know exactly what you're willing to spend, right? And what are you looking for? Are you looking for cash flow? Are you looking for primarily tax depreciation? Like I'm at a point where I'm making good money. So for me, if it breaks even in the first year, I'm okay with that because I need the tax depreciation, right? So it all just really depends on what you're looking for. That would be the first step, is really having a specific criteria to filter the deals. And then what I would say is that when they're sending you the deals, I want to know, I want to be able to see the contracts, so I know that it's their deal. Like I don't want to work with daisy chainers. I want to know that that's their deal. And I'll just tell people, just be honest with me. If you're daisy chaining this, let me know. I'll still get you paid, but I need to know that I'm talking to the actual seller. The second thing is I want to see like what's the all the numbers. I need to know the entry fee, the total purchase price. I need to know if there's an interest rate involved. Am I taking over a note? Is there a seller finance note? Is there interest on that note? What does the structure of the deal look like? And basically, yeah, does it, and also if it cash flows as a rental, what are the market rents in the area? And then what I'll do is I will vet those numbers real quickly. So first thing that I'm looking at is ARV. That's the first number that I look at. And if their ARV is incorrect, if they were unable to comp a property, now I'm questioning all the numbers that they're providing me. Because if they can't even comp it, like now the next thing I'm looking at is, are the market rents true, right? If there's a note involved, do they have a copy of the last mortgage statement? Like these are all the points of information that I need to see. So as a real quick filter, is it an area that I'm buying? Does it cash flow? Those are the first two things that I'm looking at. And then entry fee. This is my criteria. So if it's 10% or low for entry fee, if it's a good interest rate, if it cash flows, then you have my attention. Now, once you have my attention, I'm looking at the ARV. Is the ARV correct? It's either yes or no. If it's not, now I'm questioning all the numbers that I'm looking at. And I'm going to go through one by one and vet them. And if they're off, if I've got multiple numbers that are off, if like the market rents are also off, I'm probably not even going to take the deal because I just don't trust it at that point. But I work with a few guys that they know what they're doing. And so whenever they send me deals, they immediately have my attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Good answer. Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Let's get to Graham here. But I got a question for Graham first. I gotta know, Graham. I gotta understand. Is elephant helper like hamburger helper? Where do you get your ground elephant?
Zing.
Can you hear me, guys? Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So yeah, in case you're not realized, I'm from England. So I came across Pace less than a month ago. And when I joined the Circle app, I said, my avatar, I want to be a helper. So they've got me down as a community helper already. So I'm trying to skip the baby elephant stage and just go straight into being an elephant helper. So I don't really have a question for you guys at all. I just want to sort of introduce myself and say, I've been listening to a lot of Pace in podcasts during driving to work and back. I'm trying to escape my 9 to 5. I work in IT, and yeah, I'm just sort of looking for deals in America. I set up an appointment with Prime for my LLC, and then they delayed the elephant challenge, and then my LLC interview clashed with the elephant. So while the elephant challenge first aired, I had to sort of break off from that in order to do my LLC. So that was a real sort of deep challenge for me just to do both of them. Yesterday, I think the day before, I signed up for Privy. I've been in one of Dawn's calls in the Zoom. So yeah, I'm trying to get as active and involved with you guys as possible, just reaching out. I've got another one of Dawn's calls tomorrow. So yeah, I'm just really trying to get stuck in as much as possible and learn what I can. And that's it really.
Okay, so no question for the team here? Okay.
Just to introduce myself, say hello, and that's it really.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
All right, thanks.
Florida market, because I've been to Florida once and, well, been on holiday, been to America twice, but it seems a nice place. You know, Pace talks very highly of Florida, and I think that's my sort of target market. I want to replace my 9 to 5 income with, you know, like a residual income. So I don't
All
want
right,
to buy.
let's give Marie a chance, Graham.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Okay.
Graham.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I have like follow-up questions. Thank you for spending time and explaining things I'm a newbie. My first question is on the entry fee. I always heard less than 10%. But if that property has equity, like say 25%, so how does that get calculated before I bring it to my buyer?
How does equity get calculated? I don't understand the question. So
Say,
go ahead.
10% entry fee applies to buy and hold and creative deals. It's not a wholesale construct. I think we're confusing terms here.
Can you ask your question in a different way so that I can better understand it?
yes. Because I always hear about not more entry fee should not be more than 10% before you bring the deal to me.
Okay.
And then I wasn't sure if that entry fee have the equity included, you know.
No. So entry fee is basically the money in which I have to spend to close a deal, right? So that could be money to commissions, that could be cash to seller, that could be catching up arrears. So those are all of the costs associated with the deal. And some investors will also include reno into those numbers. So, if they need to spend 20K on reno.
Yeah, for a buy and hold though.
For buy and holds.
For
yes.
buy and hold. Now, if it's a cash deal, a cash kind of wholesale deal, entry fee is still there, but it's different.
I think you're thinking specifically of creative deals though, right?
Right.
Yes. So basically you don't care what is the market price at that time. You only care what you have to pay out.
It depends on the investor. So like, if they're overpaying for a property, some investors will care.
Okay.
Some investors might not care that they're overpaying a little bit if it's a great cash flow opportunity.
Okay.
But generally speaking, most investors want to walk into equity. So if they're buying a creative deal, the total purchase price, they probably want to see it a little bit under the actual market value.
Okay.
And then one thing that you should also keep in mind, I'll just touch on this real quick. If I had $100,000 house, I could sell you guys for $1 million. Everybody here would say no. But if I had $100,000 house, I could sell you guys for $1 million, but your payment's only $500 a month, and you knew you could rent it out for $1,000 a month. That's what I buy. I buy cash flow. Doesn't matter if the property goes up, down, sideways in value, as long as it cash flows. As long as I got more money coming in than I got going out, we can get a deal done. That's why I'm the only investor when I'm talking to agents or wherever it is. I can pay whatever ridiculous number you want for your house as long as the numbers work. We can use your asking price in my terms, or we can use my price in your terms, but we can't do both. So which is it that you want to do?
Right.
You've got to fight back. You can't let a seller tell you anything. You can ask some questions, but when they start talking dumb, like, you've got to challenge them. You got to show them that you got some moxie. At least I do.
Okay. Thank you.
There you go. We got one last question from Fabian.
Hey guys, how you guys doing? Thank you for the energy and the information. Loving it, loving the connection. I'm here in New York City, and I'm trying to do wholesale, but not in New York, but virtually, because New York City is very difficult city and state to kind of do some of that stuff in. So I'm trying to figure out when the question is, with virtually wholesaling, I'm trying to see if I can get into Atlanta and do Atlanta. I can do everything through Privy. I can get all the data, get the ARV and comp and that sort of stuff. When do I do the due diligence process? And in what you guys do and whoever's done virtually wholesaling before, where does the due diligence process come in? And do I get boots on the ground, or do I allow just the buyer that I get to go in and do the due diligence and then revise the pricing?
That's a great question. So I'll answer my opinion. I don't ever do deals where I don't have boots on the ground. Specifically, when you're working with agents as well, it's really important because, a lot of agents won't even entertain blind offers, which they shouldn't, in my opinion, because it's not a true offer, right? So I want a human being standing in the property to let me know that there's no issues that we're actually missing. It's also a professional courtesy to my buyers to give them certainty that we've walked the property. Obviously, they're going to get access at some point, but we want to make sure that we're giving them as much information as possible on the front end so that it can guide their buying process. So I wouldn't do deals in any market unless you do have boots on the ground. And you can actually tell that to an agent too. It's like, yeah, we're definitely going to walk the property. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. So if I'm new to the market, do I work with that specific agent and ask them if they can do dual agency, or do I go out and find an agent to go walk the property for me and kind of, I guess, do all the checks?
That's two questions. And so for the first one, I think it depends on your state, right? So I'm now learning the Atlanta market. I know California very, very well. But in California, some brokerage allow double ending, some will be okay with waiving the buyer side. It depends on the agent and the brokerage, right? Now, when it comes to due diligence, you're not actually doing due diligence by having an agent walk a property for you, right? That's not, unless they're on your team and they're not part of the transaction, right? You actually need somebody that you trust. And so, that gets into a deeper conversation about when do you walk it, if you're under contract, if you're not. But the way that I look at it is in buckets. Like if it's off market and we know we're close on price, I'll walk it without a contract. If it's inter brokerage listing that might not go to the MLS, we might walk it without a contract if we're close on price. If it's on the MLS, I'm probably not going to walk it unless I have it under contract, or unless I know that we can get it under contract, because it's just going to be a waste of time for me.
Right.
Now, everyone on my team, they need to work with me, so they're not going to go around me. So I trust them. They can walk it without us having under contract. Now, if it's somebody that I'm using to do boots on the ground, I pay them $500, but generally I've got a contract. I'm not just going to send somebody out there without a contract. That's how I operate.
Okay, so on market contracts come first, and then you send someone to do it and do the due diligence.
Correct. Yeah.
And once you find something, then you go back to the agent and kind of revise the offer price.
Yeah, we had a contract in San Jose. We assigned it for $65,000, and we basically dropped the price. I think it was like 300,000 because I found foundation issues, and I was able to show the agent. I was like, "Do you see this? Are we all standing like this?" Right. So,
right.
They were able to actually see that, identify that, and move on price. And because of that, she just completely stonewalled any other investor that she was talking to, because I was one of the only ones that ran her through it. And so she trusted me. And moving forward, she only wanted to work with me as an investor. So it's very, very helpful.
All right. Thanks.
All right, guys, this has been a lively session today. I think that we've run a little later than we normally do. It's great. We've had great attention here. For those of you who asked questions in the chat that we couldn't get to, put them in the Circle app. It's really difficult to focus on a lot people are talking live and answer questions in the chat. And I got to look at the participant list and focus on that in order to see who's raising hands and such. So it's very difficult. And you make it even more difficult if you ask the questions privately, because there are other people in the group that could potentially answer. So just going forward, the chat, let's always try to keep the chat for you guys to network. Anyway, I want to thank Jon. Jon, it was really fun having you here. You're amazing. I love working with you, dude.
Appreciate it.
Patrick, my brother, you're in the neighborhood. We better be getting together soon.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time and
thanks for hanging out, guys.
patience. Yeah, we hope you got some value today. We love being here for you. We'll see you same bat time, same bat channel next week.
Yep. See you next week, guys.
I'm gonna kill it. Take care, guys.